Well, hello, my friends. This is Jay, and this is Jay's Knit and Purl Jam. And I am so glad that you're here. I'm excited as usual because I finally get to do something that a stitch that I really love doing. And I'm trying to sprint across the finish line. I just ran out of time. I don't know what, I always seem to lose time this time of year, and I get behind. But there's been a lot going on too. But we're here, and I want to just simply slow it down, just relax, and tell you about the project that we're going to do. And as you've seen from the pictures, I really love this stitch. And this is Jay's Knit Birds of a Feather and Fan Stitch Sweater. So what do you think of that? It's one of my favorite stitches. And it's very simple, easy to do. There's only one line and a few fill-in rows, and that's it. And it can be a beginner. This is a great time for you to join in. In fact, this is really a review to my first sweater, from a square to a sweater, because we're simply going to do a square for the front. It's not a real square, but a square for the front and a square for the back, and turn it into a sweater. So, as you can see, like I said, I'm all excited. Look at that. Is that not pretty? That was some of my inspiration, along with my friend here, Bird. But that's the best I can do, Bird. So, I was just so excited. I thought I finally get to do the feather and the fan stitch. So now, before we get started with showing you the sample, I'd like to give you an overall view. Let me just pull this up. Okay. Now, let's talk about yarn real quick. I'm not going to dally because I want to get into the stitch. These are some medium-sized yarns that would work great. It's another stash busting project. And so, starting right off, here's Bernays Satin. This is black, of course, that you saw my pictures. Here's Karen Simply Soft. You know that's one of my favorites. One that we have not used and that I will be using a lot during the summer is Deborah Norville's Everyday Soft Worsted. And it is just really beautiful. And any color of your choice. And really, you don't need maybe 3 skeins because it goes very quick and it doesn't eat up a lot of yarn. So, but the one that I'm going to work and that I worked, my sample that you saw in the picture, is Red Heart Soft. You know, it's my favorite of all the Red Heart yarns. Red Heart Soft, and this name, the name of this yarn is Seafoam. And we will be using a US number 8 circular needle. And I suggest you have 2 on hand plus US number 8 straight needles also as we work this project. So, I've covered the yarn, gave you some examples of other yarns that will look pretty in this project, and of course you can find something that you might like on your number 8s also. So with that, let's do an overview. Let's look at the sweater. Okay, let's have an overview of the sweater. And as you can see, this is the Red Heart Seafoam color that I absolutely love. How it knitted up and how nice it looks. Yes, it's store-bought yarn, but it really worked up nice. And this is why it's so nice for a beginner to, if you wanted to finally, if you haven't tried my first sweater, from a square to a sweater, then this is a great one to jump in on. And as you can see, we are going to start knitting. This is the front of the sweater, of course, and we will start at the bottom edge of the sweater. And then we will knit up until we have knitted to the length that you want to reach your underarm space right here. So we will continue to knit in pattern until you reach the number of inches or centimeters or whatever your measurement is to where you're going to add, for your underarm. At that point, we will add extra stitches on each side of the sweater front, and then we will continue to knit in the pattern. And as you can see, as we get closer to the top or the shoulders, we will stop so many inches before your, right above your bust line. And we'll go into detail once we start the pattern. But as you can see, the pattern itself makes a beautiful scallop neckline just to simply stop the pattern, bind off, and then we will go into working the right front and the left front of this sweater and these simple sleeves with a garter edge stitch, so that when you're done, there's no picking up of stitches. Once we reach the top, then we will take our straight number 8 needles, put each front on, then you will start to work the back of the sweater. And this is why, like I said, it's so good for a beginner, because the back of the sweater is simply stockinette. That simply means knit on the front, purl on the back. Knit on the front, purl on the back, using the same number of rows or the same measurement that you work the front up to where you want to add sleeves. Let me make sure I'm on camera here. So whatever the measurement you use that you wanted to add your sleeves, we will add the extra stitches on the back and then continue to work up to the shoulders, where eventually, once we bind off the neck area, then we will add these shoulder stitches to another set of US number 8 needles. And then all we have to do is match the front and the back shoulder up, and then we will do a 3 needle bind off. Voila! It's nice and easy, beautiful seam, really pretty. And then all that's left to do is to simply sew up from the arm space down to the bottom of the sweater. Make a beautiful, invisible, nice seam. What do you think of that? Even Bird, I think, likes that. What do you think, Bird? Isn't that pretty? Birds of a feather. So, like I say, if you're a beginner, this is perfect. If you're a medium to advanced knitter, you're going to sail through this. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a nice treat for yourself. I have loved making these two, and I'll show you the black one a little later. We'll go over it. But I've been wearing them. I just couldn't. It is very nice and it fits nice, and a simple, easy pattern. The pattern itself makes the neckline, so there's nothing to calculate there. So now let's get into, okay, Jay, then how do we figure out how many stitches or what do I need to do to get started? We'll take care of that now. Okay, let's talk simple supplies. Like I said, if you're a beginner, this is a perfect design for you to start, for you to knit. If you've been wanting to knit a sweater, now this is just for you. Let's put it this way. This is for you. All right. Now listen. See if you have needles already. If not, you can get simple big box store needles. They work just fine for this project. As you grow into your own and you knit more, then you can up your needles to better quality. I'm working these and they work fine. And I have bukus of needles. But at least, this is what, if you're a beginner, this is going to help you. For instance, I got these at Michael's. And if you can get a coupon, you can save a little more. This is about getting out of the box, but yet we're not looking to spend a lot of money on this. This is a stepping stone. This is to get into it because to get you into your first sweater, and then as you progress, then you can get better quality equipment. But like I said, I work with these, and you're going to see me working with them. All right, so, but you will need at least, this is a US number 8, 36-inch in length needle, circular needle. And I get these from Michael's. And if you have a coupon, hey, go out in your car and come back and go use another coupon. Or they do take Joann's. So if you have a Michael's and a Joann's, you can go ahead and get 2. So it's not going to break the bank. It's stash busting. And you're going to be able to knit just fine with these needles. The reason I'm getting you to get 2, because as we get into actual knitting the project, if you could do the work on the back, we're going to because the front and the back are the same cast on number once we get to it. So if you cast on for the back, and you can work that in stockinette when you kind of get tired of, switch back and forth. Then the other needle, of course, you will be working the front. I'm telling you, if you kind of work this system, you're going to not wear yourself out, or how some people, well, I got the front done, but man, I hate to do all that knitting for the back. You're going to work them together. So you need 2 sets. You need a set. Now, if you have, I use clover too, and they're a little nicer. They're bamboo. Some people don't like bamboo. Listen, it's not in the needle. The gift is in you. I use bamboo. They're fine. I love bamboo needles, and I got a truckload of them. And we'll buy more, and I don't care. Okay, but this is a US number 8, 36 also. And, of course, you would need 2 of these so that you can work the front and the back simultaneously, and you won't be so bogged down. Okay? Then, once we get up to the shoulders, you're going to need some needles to put your stitches on so that we can do a 3-needle bind-off. And I have lots of sets of number 8s because I use them a lot. But you need some number 8s. And I just got this extra one. I don't know why I bought some more, but I had a coupon. It was burning my pocket, so I bought another number 8. And it just comes in handy. So once we reach the shoulders, we can simply have each shoulder on a needle. Put the 2 right sides together. Do a 3-needle bind off. That seam is done. So, now, we haven't broken the bank. You're going to come out with a beautiful sweater. And again, the yarn I'm using, that I use for the sweater that I showed, is Red Heart Soft. And this was Seafoam. But, it comes in, they have a lot of colors. And it is, like I say, it's a nice yarn. It's soft. It works well with those needles. You shouldn't have any problem. You will need some stitch markers. Now, I don't know if this is in camera view because I've got it way up here. But you will need some stitch markers. A couple of different colors. I know that's way up, so let me zoom in a little bit now. There's stitch markers, all kind, and you will need some caps for your needles to cap your stitches once we go into, to bind off. These are just those little rubber caps that goes on the end of your needles. Okay? I think that's it. So let us get into, all right, Jay, let's go over the stitches real quick. How many can I cast on, and what do I need to do to get started? Okay, all right, my US number 8 is 92 stitches. I'm going to be working the feather and fan stitch, and for my design for this stitch, I'm going to use 36 stitches for the feather and fan stitch. I don't have a book to show you because I don't know, I've had this pattern forever. I don't even know. It's the one I just use all the time. And the feather and fan is just a nice stitch to learn, to know. It works up so beautiful. There's just one row, and it's mainly a row of knit two togethers and yarn over, knit one, yarn over, knit one, then knit two togethers again, and it's just one long row of that. And then the rest of the rows you just fill in with some knit stitches or some purl stitches to whatever that will fit whatever pattern you want to make. We're making our own pattern here. We're designing our own sweater. So from 92, now we're going to figure out how to write our formula. You know I have a formula. And that's the line I work from when I'm working. So from 92, which is my number, on my number 8, I know I'm using 36 stitches for the fan and feather stitch. I take 36 from 92. That gives me 56 stitches left. Now, if I divide 56 in half, that gives me 28 stitches on either side of the pattern. Here's the pattern, and I always put it in a block. On the written pattern that you'll see on the screen, I could only put it in parentheses, but here it is, 36. Well, on each side of 36, I can put 28 stitches on this side and 28 stitches over here. Now, I want to, since I'm on the edge of, since I'm not doing a big border, but I do need to have a knit stitch on each end. I knit the first and last stitch. Some people slip the stitch. You can do either one, but we're going to take that one stitch from the 28, and so now I can write my formula to work by. This is what I'm working by right here, and the few little stitches and the little stitch in here. I'm going to have a border of 1. I'm going to just knit 27 stitches. Then I'm going to work the pattern. The pattern is one row, and then I'll have 27 more stitches to fill in all this area, and then I will end with either a knit stitch or a slip stitch, however you do it for the last. And if you add all that up, it equals 92. Voila! So if yours was 88, you take 36 from 88, divide that in half, see what you get. Now if for some reason it didn't come out even, and you couldn't divide in half, you just add one stitch to it to make it even. See, it's not hard. I'm telling you, this is fun. So, but this is the line that we knit from, and so now all I have to do is cast on 92 stitches on both my circular needles for my back and for my front. Then I will start knitting, and I will knit the first stitch, and then I will just knit. Well, let's cast on and let's go from there. Okay, so of course I'm going to be working this little sample, and then I'll move to a sample I have farther along. But this, everyone will start the same. Whatever number you came up with, however you want to get your number to cast on. So, on this sample I have 60 stitches. I have 36 that will represent the pattern, and then on each side I'm going to have 12 stitches. So, the first row, after casting on, I'm simply going to knit until I get up to my pattern. So I'm just going to knit across, and I believe I have 12 stitches, so I'll knit, and then we're going to place markers on this first row. Whatever your line, your formula line, you're working from that one line. So I'll stop and count. Let's see, I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So I need to back out of 1. I had 12. I'm just using this as my little demonstration piece. This is just worsted yarn. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. All right, I reach and get a marker. These are those filler stitches to start with. Now, the next 36 stitches will represent my pattern, and I will start. This is one thing so good about the feather and fan stitch. You can place it anywhere in your pattern you want. I could have it at row 3. Maybe for some reason I need to knit 2 rows and then put it in row 3. Or I could have it at row 4. But I'm putting it in row 1, and this is how it reads. Row 1, which is the right side, which is the feather and fan stitch, reads, knit 2 together 3 times. Yarn over, knit 1 6 times. Knit 2 together 6 times. Yarn over, knit 1 6 times. Knit 2 together 3 times. Isn't that fun? All right, but it's as simple as just like it's on the screen. This is just the way you do it, just like it says. Okay, so I knit 2 together. And you'll see this pattern will fall in real quick and you'll have it in no time. And I do it 3 times. So there's knit 2 together. And I did it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. All right, now yarn over, knit 1 and do it 6 times. So that's 1. Yarn over, now knit, that's 2. Yarn over, 3. Yarn over, 4. Yarn over, 5. One more, yarn over, and 6. The next thing I do, I knit 2 together and I do it 6 times. So, knit 2 together, 1, 2 together, that's 2, that's 3, here's 4, here's 5, and knit 2 together, and that's 6 times. Okay, now I go back into yarn over, knit 1, that's 1, yarn over, knit 1, that's 2, there's 3, here is yarn over, knit 1, that's 4, here is 5, and here's 6. Now, I need to end with knit 2 together 3 times. So, I knit 2 together, 1, 2, and 3. Now, on this little sample, I only had 12 stitches. On my original, I had 27, and then that 1 edge stitch on each end. So let me count my stitches. So I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So I put a marker to end the pattern, and now I just continue to knit across this row. This is row 1. Everyone will work this just the same, whatever your number of stitches that you cast on. We just work the feather and fan stitch on row 1, the right side. Okay, now I'm setting in this bottom edge of the sweater, so when I turn the work, now before I even turn the work, let me just say this. There's the pattern in the middle. These sections, which are just filler stitches, will be worked always in stockinette. Knit on the front, purl on the back. Knit on the front, purl on the back. Except this row that we're getting ready to work right now, because I wanted 2 rows of knit stitches just to have that little border on the edge of my sweater. So once I turn the work, even though I am on the wrong side, I'm going to knit I'm just going to knit these stitches just like this. I'm just setting in a small little border, little garter border at the bottom edge of the sweater. So I knit over, and really you knit all the way across, even on the pattern. So let me just knit a little bit further, and then I'll see you on the other end. Slide the marker. Now I'm up to my pattern. I slide the marker, and I continue to knit, because this is the front edge border at the very edge of the sweater. And you will knit, and I will see you on this end. Okay, so I've knitted across my row. Even though I'm on the wrong side, I'm knitting every stitch, the pattern, all the stitches. I'm just knitting across this row. So I took, let me just get to the end so then we can talk. I'm just knitting all the stitches on the second row of this edge. Now when I look at it, okay, see, now when and by me knitting across the row, it's gonna pop the actual row of the feather and fan stitches. They're gonna pop on the front side out because I was knitting on a wrong side row. And so we will do this every time to take the yarn overs off. Feather and fan, like I said, the pattern is one row, then you always have to follow it up with a second row, whether you knit the row or purl the row, to take all the to work all the yarn overs in, you know, the stitches. So now I am on, this is row 3 of this edge. Are we together? All right, row 3. We are going to simply, these are filler rows now. That's all of the pattern on this feather and fan. This is why it's so good for beginners. Now I'm just going to knit, this is row 3, and now I'm going to knit all the stitches. I'm just going to knit again, but this time I'm on the front. Now this is when, if you're new, I just didn't have enough room, but if you're new, you can take the little piece of yarn like I always do. It's just not, I don't have enough room right now, but you'll be able to tell the front, but that's the back, that's the wrong side. So now I'm on row 3 of the pattern. You don't have to do anything. You just simply have to knit all across. You just knit all the stitches. Just sit there and knit them across. Now we're setting up the stockinette of this sweater, where we'll knit on the front. This is the front, and then when we turn, when we get to the other end, we'll turn, and then we'll be using the purl stitch. So there. Now I'm up to the marker that represents, tells me that I'm close, right at my pattern, right there. So I simply slide the marker. I've already worked that one line of the feather and fan stitch. Now I can just knit. This is just a filler row to fill in the pattern. So now I knit all the way across. All right, I'll see you on the end. Okay, I'm just knitting up, and I'm coming up to the opposite end of my row. I finished all the pattern stitches of the pattern area, so I slide the marker, and I continue just to knit to the end of this row number 3. Oops. Row number 3, just like this. All right, up to the end. Now guess what? When we turn the work, we're on the purl side, and like I said, we're starting stockinette in these filler areas. So I will simply, you're going to purl all the stitches except the first and last which I will knit my first and last stitch. You might like to slip yours, whatever your preference, but you will start here. So for me, I will start by knitting the first stitch, then yarn in front. Now I'm just going to purl all the way to the last stitch on this row, and then I will knit that stitch. This is row 4 of and it's just that easy. Now I'm just purling across until I get to the last stitch. Okay, and when I come back, I need to share, I'm going to give you a little tip on something. I've done it in other videos, but all of a sudden I see I need to tell maybe beginners what to do about this cord. So that wasn't something I thought of. I just thought of it while I was knitting, like, oh man, did I? I'm going to show you how to fix this, because when you get your needles and they're new, this can be a problem. All right, so now we are purling to the very last stitch. Either you knit the last stitch or you slip it. All right. Okay, so I'm coming up to the end of this row, and I am still just working across the purl side. And I come up to my last stitch, and whatever you do, whether you knit or slip, I knit mine, so I'm going to put my yarn in back and knit the last stitch. And voila, you have worked, believe it or not, the feather and fan stitch with some filler rows in between. Guess what? We're on row 1 again. Row 1 is exactly the same. You're going to knit over to the pattern. On the front, you just knit. You don't have to worry about, you just knit over to the pattern. You're going to repeat the pattern again. Take your time so that you get all your yarn overs. Every once in a while, if you feel like you need to check your stitch count, that make sure you didn't drop anything, there should be 36 stitches between these two markers to represent the feather and fan pattern. And then you knit the rest of the stitches. Now, I was going to show you this, then of course I'm going to switch to a large sample so I can tell you, the next steps. Okay, but I was going to show beginners this. I have this on other videos, but you may not have seen this. So you get these needles here, or whether they're the clover or this one. Anytime you're working with circular needles, they have these cords or cables. Okay, then when you take them out, they're still like wound up. They're just like this, and I kind of picked up this and I didn't straighten it out. So this is what you do. Let me show you an easy way. I've seen people do all kind of things. Go to your ironing board. Just take your ironing board, turn it on. It can be steam, it doesn't matter, just turn it on. All right, now this iron is not on. I'm just pretending now. I just thought I better show some of you this. You need a little towel or a little, like a dinner napkin. I have a lot of little towels like this, or a pillowcase. You take the cable or the cord of these needles and you just put it in between the towel and put, just like that. Make sure I was on camera. And come over, okay? Now, with the iron, and it doesn't have to be super duper hot, and you cannot walk away and you cannot leave it. You're simply going to put the iron on the towel or dinner napkin, and then I just take the ends of the needle and slide them back and forth. Sometimes I rotate them a little bit like this. Just rotate real slow as I pull it through the iron. It doesn't take that long. You do not want to leave it and melt the cord. But you just slide it back and forth. You can take it and look at it, pull it out. If it's still real curly, all right, put it back in. Just like this. And this way you don't wet your needles and do some of the other things. It just stays just nice. Just slide it back and forth. And then take it out and, of course, turn your iron off and all of that. And voila. This cord is ready to behave itself, and you can knit a beautiful sweater with your circular needles. How about that? Easy peasy. Okay, now I have another sample that's further along, And so now we'll talk. I'm going to try to walk you through this as much as possible. Look, Jay don't want to run her arms. Okay. So I don't have one I'm working in real time this time. I wanted to so bad, but I thought, no, I've got another tutorial right after this one I've got to work on. So let me get the next sample. But now your card, instead of you working hard to work your card is going to work for you. Boom. Okay, so before we go any further, on the front, remember I said it, especially if you're new, it would be great if you would work the back of the sweater along with the front. That's why the 2 sets of needles. And just to get you started, here's the back bottom edge. You cast on the same amount of stitches as for the front, and you're just going to knit 2 rows. Just knit 2 rows, and then the next row, row number 3, you start in stockinette. Knit on the front, purl the stitches on the back. Knit on the front, purl on the back, on the wrong side. And you're just going to work up and continue to do, let's make sure where I am on the camera. Yeah, there we go. You will continue to work up until you can kind of hold it up to your body to see about how many inches or centimeters or whatever. You're working towards your arm space. You're working towards the arm space. And for me, I started using 11. On this one, I believe I worked for 11 inches. And what you want to do is, of course, work that far and then just cap your needles and then go back to the front. So that way, you're already up, so when you start adding stitches for the front, you can add some for the back also. Just a little tip to kind of help you, to make this journey easier. Okay, so now, and of course on the front of the sweater is a separate piece, and it's on some separate needles, so you work up to however many inches to your arm space, and like I said, I'm using 11 on this one because that's what it measured out for me. So I'm going to work on a little sample as we work up to 11 inches. At least I worked up to 11 inches on my sweater. Now, work up however many inches you need, but make sure you are on row 1. So I had to go over 11 just a little bit. To get back to row 1. We want to add our increased stitches as we start to do row 1 of the pattern. So that, in fact, that's it'll be on the right side. So I will see you back. I'm going to work on this. I have a larger sample here. I will be back to show you how to add the extra stitches for our little sleeve as we work up the front of the sweater. Does that make sense? Okay, I think that's what I want to say. All right, back in a minute. Okay, so now, all right, of course we got to pretend a little bit now, since I'm not doing one in real time. All right, so I'm pretending. Here's my sample. I've worked up a little. I've worked a little more off camera. And now I am pretending that I am up to my 11 inches, or yours may be 11 and a half, or it may be 10 inches, whatever it is to get to your underarm space, and you're ready to work row 1. You're ready to work row 1, and I'm saying I'm ready to add my extra stitches for my sleeve. So here we go. All right. To add our sleeves, now you can do, I had two different sleeve count. On the teal, I added 4 stitches on each side, plus 3 extra stitches to make a little garter edge on the edge of the sleeve. On the black one, I added 8 stitches plus 3 extra stitches for the edge. So if you want a little longer sleeve, you can add 8 stitches, or this is a little shorter. But I don't like to have my underarm showing, so I always like a little hint of a sleeve. So on this teal one, I just thought it would be nice to have a different sleeve number. So here we go. Either way, this is how you're going to do it. right side ready to work row 1, but at first I'm going to simply knit on 4 stitches. So I put my needle in to knit, pull the stitch up, and slide it onto the left hand needle. That's 1. Yarn over, pull up a loop, and now place it on the left hand needle. That's 2. And we're going to just continue to do this. And 3 and 4. That's the sleeve. Doesn't look like much now, but it really is a nice size sleeve. Now I have to add 3 more stitches because I need a border for this sleeve so that I don't have to pick up stitches. So I'm going to add 3 more. 1, in the same way, knit them on. Here comes number 2. And here's number 3. So in total, I should have 2, 4, 6. Oops, that stitch goes with the edge. You can, if you look real careful, you can see that stitch goes with the edge of the sweater. So 2, 4, 6, and 1 is 7. All right. Now we're going to get back into pattern, and I'm going to knit across until I get to my marker that represents where the pattern will start. So on this little sample, I'm just going to knit across. Let's see how fast, if I can do it without having to turn the camera off. I think I will, and just go to the other side instead of repeating row 1. Okay, so I will knit to the marker, then I will start my pattern, row 1, just follow the row of your feather and fan stitch, and go all the way, and I will see you on this end to show you how to add the stitches on this side of the sweater. Okay, I think that's better. Okay, so now I'm on the opposite end, and I've worked the pattern, of course, and now I'm on these little filler stitches, and I'm getting ready to come to the end, but I need to add the same amount of stitches I added on the right side I need on this left side. So now I get up to the last stitch. Now, watch. Okay, now you could just knit this one and then add the stitches on the purl side, but this is just what I do. Now, like I said, I'm not a professional, but it works for me, and I'm just sharing with you what I do. I go into this stitch, just like that, like I'm going to knit it. I knit into the front, and then I knit into the back. Just like that. And that's 1 stitch I've knit from the left to the right hand needle. Now go into the last stitch again. I just keep going into the last stitch. Watch. So I've already added 1, so I knit into the front, I swivel my needle and knit into the back, that stitch. That's 2 stitches I've added. Alright, and let's go into the last stitch again. 1 into the back. Now that's 3 stitches I've added. Just by making an increase, knit into the front and into the back. Knit the front, now turn and go into the back, and knit the stitch. That's 4. Here's the original sweater, last stitch there. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I need to add 3 more to make a little sleeve edge. So let's go 3 more. Knit into the back. That's 1 again. 2. I'm always working in that last stitch. 3. Now you can just, that belongs to the original edge. So now there's 2, 4, 6, and 1 is 7. Same number that I have on the other side. Now I can turn the work, and I'm back into pattern. I am on row 2 of the pattern, and row 2 of the pattern. Now you're going to, now you have to knit these first 3 stitches because they represent a new border now for the sleeve. So that's 1. I'm knitting on the wrong side, 2 and 3. Now I reach and place a marker. I've got 2 markers here. So I'm going to put a marker. This represents, before I put my marker, because I'm now going to purl up to my pattern. So I put the yarn in front, place my marker. Now I'm just going to purl these stitches over to the marker that represents the pattern, the feather and fan. So now I'm just, remember these stitches are in stockinette. Knit on the front, purl on the back, except the first and last stitch. Okay, so I'm just going to work a little bit just so that you can see what I'm doing, and then I'll jump to the other edge. Here we go. I'm coming up to the pattern section. Okay, now on the pattern section, if you look at the pattern, it says knit all, on this side we knit the pattern stitches because we want this nice popped out ridge on the front. See how that's what we're doing there. So we will continue to stay in pattern. So now yarn in back and I knit across the pattern section, and I will see you on the opposite end of this row. I'm knitting on the wrong side, removing all the yarn over. So be real careful as you work your way across. Okay, so I'm near the other end, so I'm going to slide my, and I finished knitting across the actual pattern row. Now I'm going to put my yarn in front, slide my marker. Now I'm in my stockinette where you knit on the front and purl on the back, and we're on the back on the wrong side. So now I'm purling across so that I can get to my new sleeve and put a marker there. So I just purled all those stitches. Be careful, and till I get to the last 3 stitches, which forms the new sleeve edge. One more. Okay. Now, there's the last 3. Yarn in back, place a new marker, just to remind you to knit these 3 stitches. And that way we won't have to pick up any stitches at the end of the sweater. Okay, so here we have, I will work some extra rows off camera. Now we stay right in pattern. We just finished row 1 and row 2. Now this is row 3, and you will knit completely across. Just continue to stay in pattern according to the rows of your feather and fan stitch, and then we'll see our sleeve start to grow. Now I do what I call easy count. And I know I need at least 8 inches because, you know, I work with a soft shoulder. I don't work, since this comes over the shoulder cap. And from where we've just added these stitches to my shoulder, I need about 8 inches. You may need 9 if you're larger in the arms, or, you know, by now you should have an idea whether you need 7 if you're a small person, or maybe 8, or you need 9 inches for your arm space. I need 8, at least 8 inches. And sometimes it has to run over a little bit just to stay in pattern. But let me just show you this. So I know for my 8 inches, it's about, I'm going to make about 24 or 25 of these little garter stitch ridges along the edge of the sleeve. You see that nice edging? So now I can just continue to work the sleeve and then stop and count and see as I get close to 24. I can stop and make sure and go to the, you can also go to the back, work on the back, flip it over, you know, get your, not flip it over, but get your other piece and add your stitches on just like we did for the front and start working your garter ridge and try to hit the same number as we have in the front. See, I call it easy count. You know, you can measure and all that, but when I find something to count in a pattern to make it symmetrical on both sides or even, then that's what I use. And this is like easy count. So I count it, and I need about 24 or 25 to reach the top of my shoulder right up here. And then, of course, the other front will have the same number. All right, let's continue to work, and I'm going to work some off camera. Okay, so now, before we go any further, as you are working, you know, you establish the sleeve stitches, now you're working up. Now you have to stop maybe about halfway, or, you know, after you've worked the sleeve for a couple of inches, you need to stop because now we need to stop the front panel. You know, this is the front panel, and you don't want it to go all the way up to your actual throat. You want to go just above your bust line, or, you know, some like it a little lower. I like mine a little higher. So what you have to do is stop and take it and, you know, put it up to the front of your body and see how many of these repeats or where you need to stop. I believe when I took account of mine, let's see here, how many did I have? Let's see, this is long, let me see, I'm going to just count from the bottom. I had about 20, right at 20, about 20. I think I went up to about 20 of these repeats. These, you can count the little ridge lines. That's row 2. Every time you count one of these ridge lines, you're counting row 2. That's the row we take the yarn overs off of row 1. Row 1 is a pattern, but row 2 forms a ridge line. So you can just simply count and see and hold this up to your body. And once you feel like you have it, you know, to the length you want, you know, at your bust line or above it, then we will bind off the pattern. We're going to stop the pattern, and then we will have a left front and a right front, and then we will have to knit them separate, just like we've done in the past. But you need to be on row 1. So on my sample I'm getting ready to bring over, I have finished row 4, and now I'm ready to start row 1. If I was going to continue in the pattern, I would just continue on, but now I'm going to bind off, and I'm going to show you how we work these little edge stitches on each side so we don't have to pick up anything. We will work across, pick up, change this to an edge stitch, bind off the neck, edge stitches, and then we knit across. All right, let me bring out the sample and show you how it's done. Okay, so now here's my working sample. And as you can see, now, of course, we have to pretend a little bit now. I have worked up, and I have this front pattern as far up the front of my body as I'd like to go, whether it's a low bust line near the bust line or a little higher. I have about 20 inches maybe, or something like that. So I'm ready to bind off. I am on row 1, following the feather and fan pattern. So as I work across here, these are just my stockinette stitches. I work across and I see that I'm coming to the pattern. And if I was going to continue, I'd just do row 1, but we're going to bind off. But this is what I wanted to show you. If we were doing the pattern, the first 3 stitches right here, you know they are knit 2 together, knit 2 together, knit 2 together. There are 3 stitches. Well, I'm going to take the first 3 stitches and make a border. And this is how I'm going to simply do it. I knit over. You can just go ahead and slide your marker. You can really probably drop it, but alright, I'm going to leave it there. So I'm simply going to knit 1, 2, 3. Now, that becomes my neck edge as I go up the front of this sweater, because I'm getting ready to bind off this lace part. Now, to bind off, starting here, we need 2 stitches, not these. So I need to knit a stitch, knit, and then knit 1 more. Now I reach back and I bind off just like that, which will leave me those 3 stitches for my neck edge, but yet the rest of them will be bound off. Let's go. Go across. Now I'm just binding off in knit. Bind off. And we will have this beautiful neckline from our feather and fan stitch. So I'm just binding off. Okay, got a good little ways to go, so let me just continue on. Yeah, you can have different, like the black one. I think I had a little lower, and then this teal one, I let the neckline go up a little higher. So it just depends on after you kind of hold it up to you. It's your preference. Where you want to stop the lace pattern. So I'm just continuing to bind off all the way across my feather and fan stitches. Coming up to the other end, and I'm going to look for those last 3. Oops, see, I got a little snag there. There we go. Last 3 stitches. Make sure I'm binding off. Okay, I got a little ways to go. Just a few more stitches. Take your time. Bind off. Reach back. Knit the next stitch. Reach back and bind off. Knit the next stitch. Reach back and bind off. Okay, so I'm up to the last 3 stitches before the marker. And these are the 3 I want to make the new neck edge. So I still have this 1 stitch though that I need to bind off. That's still part of the neck. So I go ahead and knit 1 more stitch out of those 3, bind off. Now, here are my 3. 1, 2, 3. So knit 1 and then knit those. So now there are my 3 stitches. And of course, slide my marker and then continue to knit across the row. Just like that. I'm going to see if I can do it without having to stop the camera real quick. Sometimes it's more trouble to have to stop and reset the camera. Because I have my needle, I have everything here ready to go. So I'm just knitting across. Nothing like pressure, is there? I almost didn't like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get this done before Easter, before I can get it up. Okay, there's the mark to represent my little sleeve edge. So I knit those 3 also. Whew! I made it. Okay, so now let me lay it down. Let me check and make sure that you can see it on camera. And I think I'll back just a little bit, just so that you can see a little bit more. Okay, so now look. Here is my beautiful little scallop neck right there. These 3 stitches that I took from the pattern, I am going to continue to work in garter. That means every row I knit. Then it's going to form the little garter rows just like on the sleeve edge, just like right here. We will continue to knit up as we go up, but now we're going to knit the fronts 2 shoulders separate. The shoulder and the little sleeve, we're going to knit. So now this is the next thing you do, remember? Just so that I don't ever forget and not have any problems, this is when I grab my bamboo straight needles, or whatever brand you're going to use. All right, remember? Then I go immediately to this side because I have these circular needles. Now I'm going to transfer all of these stitches so that it will be in the right place when I come back to work this side. So not only transfer the stitches, we transfer the markers also. So now I'm just transferring. I do that first, get it out of the way. Just transfer everything. You know, now you can put them on stitch holders, or people use all, you know, but this is just something I do. I do the steps pretty much the same every time. That way I don't forget anything. There's the marker to remind me that here are those 3 stitches. Now, that needle is clear. I can put it over there for right now. Grab a cap. I cap it. There's a sleeve in that front part of the... Now, all I have to do is continue up. Remember I said I need at least 8 inches, or about 24 or 25 of these garter ridges right here. Easy count is what I call it, where I find something in the pattern that's similar and I can count that. Not only measure, but I can also count. And that helps me too. So now all I have to do is come over, flip the work. Check my camera. Alright, so now I'm on the wrong side, and now I can just take, this is why you need 2 sets of straight needles. Alright, and with a coupon, you know, they're not that expensive. So now I go right back into pattern. I knit these 3 for the sleeve. Now yarn in front, slide the marker. Now I purl across this row to free up my circular needle. Get it all out of the way so it's not flopping about. Now I can just work on these short bamboo straight needles. So I'm just following the pattern now. And I've worked each right front and left front while I'm trying to finish up my sleeve, while I'm trying to get enough my sleeve at least to 8 inches. So here I come up to that marker that reminds me. All right, and we're going to knit on every row these 3 stitches. Yarn in back, slide the marker. Now I simply knit these 3 stitches, and voila, we're on our way now. I have freed up this needle for another project, which I will be casting on, I'm sure, soon. Okay, and then of course now when I turn the work, look, you see? Now this is, I will continue working left front all the way up, doing my easy count or however many inches up, because we need to get to the shoulder and then cap it so that we can hold it till we go to the back. See, now if you have worked your back like I tried to, get you to work a little bit on the back, it will not be, you won't have to just go start with casting on and starting all over. It will be up at least to the sleeve, and you can continue to work because, we eventually will do a 3 needle bind off. All right, just want to show you that, so I will continue to work, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now let's stop and look at what we have. I've worked off camera to get this, my sample up to a certain point so that you'll know exactly what you should have when you reach the point. I have worked, this is my samples, I have to pretend. I have worked my sleeve pretending that I've worked 8 inches, or I did an easy count and simply counted the garter stitch ridge little row here. You can see the little rows, how they pop out. You can count those. I call it an easy count. That means 1, 2, 3, and then I needed about 24, 25 to get to to 8 inches for my sleeve. And then of course the reason it's easy count, because then I can just easily go over here and count this side and see if it gets close or matches or whatever. By it being a right and left, you may have 1 row off. That's just the way it is, people. But do you see the position of the needles? This is what you want to end with. Once you finish the arm space, however many inches you need, whether you're a small person, you only need 7 inches. I do 8 inches. You might be larger in the arms if you have to do 9, a little over 9. That's fine. But this is the position you want the needles pointing in, so that once we get the back the same size, then we will be able to do our 3 needle bind off, and your needles will be in the right position. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's how you'll end when you finish your sleeves up to the top of your shoulders. This will be up to the top of your shoulders. Now, before we go to the back, to bring it up to the same, measurement, count all your stitches. Count all of these stitches on this needle and count them on this needle. On my original, I had like 40 something, I think. Close to 40, 38, 40 or something. On this sample, I have 28. I counted them twice, and then I counted this side twice. So I have 28 stitches, because that automatically tells me that I have to have 28 stitches for my shoulder. I will have to make the shoulder match, the back shoulder match this front shoulder on the right, and then on the left. Whatever's left on the back will be the neck stitches. Does that make sense? Easy way. That's what I call an easy count. See, I've just used reference points to count and to get where I need to be. But this is the way your needles will look, and in which direction they should be pointing while we now work on the back, so that we can get it up. All right, so now let me move the front, and now we have the back. And so now I'm working up my back. Of course, this is just pretend. I'm trying to get up to my 8 inches to match the front. And what I'd like for you to make a note of, before if you count in these little ridges, when you get to about 4 garter ridges out from whatever number you need to end up with, If I needed 24, then I'd stop at 20, say. Or if you needed, well, whatever. But just stop about 4 garter rows before the number you need to get to, because we need to set in and mark our neck and our shoulders. So the first thing I want to do is start on this end and count every stitch, even the border. Count every stitch so that it will match the front, and it is 28 stitches. You see that? In fact, you can just knit it. In fact, I think I'll just go ahead and knit. Oops. Hold on a minute, I think here we go, had to back out a little bit. Okay, so I will just knit across. I'm counting my stitches, and it needs to match my front shoulder. So there's 28. I want you to mark it, just so that you know. Now watch. Go to this edge. Don't start in the middle. Go to this edge and count 28 stitches and put a mark. Does that make sense? All right. Now, I want you to continue across. Just knit across the row and put another marker, and then we will mark the neck. Let me just kind of get over here to this section right quick. Oops. Let's see if I dropped something. Okay, let me put that back on. I think I dropped it trying to go fast. So whatever was left after you counted both shoulders and made sure that the stitches match, it just simply becomes the neck. So now I'm going to put a mark right here, and I can remove that. And then you will knit all the way across to the end. All right? Now, once we get to the end and turn the work, let's work back to the neck, and then I'll show you what we'll do to set the neck off, just to make it so you'll know it's definitely the neck stitches, and it will, it'll just have its own look, and I think you'll see, well, you'll just see what I'm talking about. Okay, so I've turned the work, and now I'm working on the wrong side, working back across the row on our sweater, the back section. Now, we put the marks in, our little markers, and I wanted to have them in place on the right side, so once we do this row, you can see what we're doing. So I know that these stitches match the shoulder stitches on the front, and so does this side. Whatever's left simply becomes a neck between these two markers right there. Now, I'm on the wrong side, so I am doing a purl stitch across. And right before I get to this marker, there are 3 stitches. On the front, do you remember? We had 3 stitches right here. So in order to keep this little pattern going across the neck, across the shoulder, and to match up with the back section, I'm going to stay in knit every row for 3 stitches, just like the front. So I come to 3 stitches before my neck marker, see, put the yarn in back. Now I'm going to knit these 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. See, now they'll form a garter ridge on the front. And now, so that I will know exactly where the neck is, I'm going to continue to knit across my neck stitches, the stitches between the marker, just like this. I'm on a purl side, a wrong side, and I am knitting 3 stitches before the neck, and now I'm knitting all the neck stitches, and then I'll knit 3 stitches on the other side when we get to the marker. So, since we did not do any ribbing in this sweater, I'm making the neck match the bottom edge by putting this garter ridge on your neck. Now watch, I'm up to the marker, slide the marker, and I'm going to take these 3 stitches right here, and they will match up to the 3 we have in front. Watch. If you need to, now I didn't mark mine, but if you need to, you can stick a marker there. You know, if you're new and you think, oh, okay, just stick a marker. Now, you need to bring your yarn in front because we're going to get ready to purl. Now watch. The rest of the stitches I purl to the next marker, and then I will knit. So now, yarn in front. I'm trying not to have to pick up any stitches or add an extra border or do anything on this. I'm trying to let the yarn, let the stitches just work, and at the end it looks really nice, and I don't have to pick up any stitches. So now I'm coming up to the last marker, the border marker, for my sleeve edge. There it is right there. And of course the yarn in back, slide the marker, and then knit those 3 stitches also. Now let's turn it before I get off camera. Okay, so now when I turn the work, oops, my needle. Okay, when I turn the work, I will continue working this pattern that I've just set up. And if you need to put a marker over here, I need to put a little marker on this side to match, just like that, so that I know to knit these 3 stitches on every row. I'm also going to do that for the neck for about, you can say an inch, or, yeah, about an inch or so. We can look at it once I do it. I'm going to work a little bit off camera, and then we'll bind off. Eventually we will bind off these stitches, and then the stitches on this side of the marker, we will do a 3 needle bind off to the front. Does that make sense? It's hard to explain. You'd be trying to think so much. Okay, so let me do a little work off camera to bring it up, and then it's going to pop, and you're going to see exactly what I'm trying to tell you, what I'm trying to show you. All right, back in a minute. Okay, let me walk you through what I've just worked on the back of the sweater. We were working, trying to get to the shoulder, working up, counting our, or measuring by our sleeve. And mine is 8 inches, and I was trying to, work up, but I stopped 4 garter ridge rows short. Or you can do 5, whatever, just as long as you stop maybe 4 before you reach the shoulder or the top of the shoulder. And this is when I set in markers. And I also started the garter ridge on my neck section, the stitches between those 2 markers. And as you can see now, everything matches. Since we didn't do any ribbing, so I just simply used the garter stitch ridges as a separation for my neck. And remember, as I start to work across, since I've reached my 4 rows, you can count those ridges right there, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so now I'm going to bind off the neck. So I am working, I'm knitting, and I have those 3 stitches. Remember the 3 little border stitches, all right? Now I can take my marker off for my neck because I'm going to bind the stitches off. And you need to knit, starting with this stitch, I will knit 1 stitch, move to the next one, knit, now reach back and bind that stitch off for the back of my neck. Very back of the sweater. All right, move to the next stitch and bind off. And we will continue across. So I can show you what it should look like when you're done. I'm simply working across the stitches that I've marked for my neck for the back of the sweater. And I'm binding those stitches off nice and neat. Whoops. Continue across. Binding off. Okay, I see I'm coming up to my mark. Okay, now here is, now there's one last stitch, and it needs to be bound off too, because it's really part of the neck. These 3 stitches, remember, are like a border. So I can drop the marker, go over here and use one of these stitches, knit it, then reach back and bind off. Now I have 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. To add to my shoulder. Those 3 stitches belong in the shoulder area. So now I just knit across. Then I'll show you what we'll do. Oops, I think I oops, did I drop a stitch? I think I did. So just take my needle and pick it back up and continue across. Pull up some yarn. Okay, now what's so good about having the back on these double point, on the circular needles? I really could have dropped my marker since. Okay, I'm trying to get to the end so I can show you what you should have. Okay, now do you see what we have here? Now, just to make it look nice, I usually go back and work this side and on a straight needle, or you can simply stop here and we can 3 needle bind off and use our cable, our circular needle. And I'll show you how to do that, how to match it up. But this is what you should have, and you still have your circular needles in this in the back piece. And we can do a 3 needle bind off right here on this row, or if you needed extra rows to go over the shoulders, you could do that too. But I think we can easily stop here. So let me get the front ready, and I'll show you the 3 needle bind off. And I think there's just one other thing that I would need to share with you before we're done. Okay, so now, if you're satisfied that you have reached your arm space measurement, which is what you're trying to do, so that we can do the 3 needle bind off and join the front to the back. But this is what you should have. Here's the front, here's my back. And it looks like that. Does that make sense? Okay, now in order to I just went ahead and I didn't think I needed any more extra rows for this demonstration, so I'm just going to leave my circular needle in place. But now I need to turn so that the right side, this is the back, and the right side is going to face the right side of the front. So now here's the front, and I turn it so that the right sides are facing. And like I said, with the circular, I have a needle on each end, so I don't have to really worry too much about which way the needle is facing. Okay, so now right sides are facing, and now I'm going to work on, we'll work on this side because the yarn is, let's see, where's my yarn? We'll start with the side where the yarn is. Here we go, right here. All right, so I'm going to turn it so that I'm working. I'm going to put the points of my 2 needles together. I've counted my stitches. I've recounted. I have 28 stitches on this needle, which is the front. I have 28 stitches on this needle here, which is the back. Now we need to seam it together. So make sure you have your working yarn, which is here. Sometimes if there's a tail on one side, I can grab the tail too. And this is what works good for me. I just take a small double pointed needle. You know, it can size 8 or 9, whatever you have that's close to it. And we're just simply going to bind off using this needle. And I've done it before, but I'm going to do a little bit more just so that you'll have it. Just make sure you have your... Okay, so you simply... Let me put this in back. All right. You're going to... Of course, we have to start with 2 knit stitches. So I put my needle in the front stitch and then into the back stitch. Now I'm going to take my tail and the working yarn, and I'm going to knit and then knit through the front needle too. Now I can take it off. I can just simply slide those 2 stitches off, the back needle and the front needle. Okay, but I need another stitch to bind off. So I go through the front again. I go through the back. I'm still holding my tail just to clean up things. Bring it through both loops. Now I can reach and simply bring the back stitch over, and it's bound off. Now I can just drop that tail and continue to bind off with the working yarn. It's a little awkward at first, but once once you get a rhythm, then you can then you'll move a lot smoother. All right, so keep your points kind of up close together. Go into the front stitch, then go into the back stitch. I just have the working yarn now. Come through both stitches, off the needle. Now reach back and bind those stitches off. Working yarn. Now I can drop all these markers now. See, we're just binding off. Front, into the back stitch. Bring it through both. Pull them off the needle. Now reach back and bind off. Just like that. Into the front, or through the front, through the back. Pull it through. Now reach back and bind off. Through the front, through the back. Bring it through. Now pull them off. Reach back and bind off. Back. Reach through and bind off. Let's see if I can get across this one side. Front and the back. Don't forget the back. Pull it through and bind off. Then I'll save the other side in case I ever need to demonstrate it again. I'll have this sample already. I'm running out of room to put samples. Through the front, through the back, loop, bring it through, now bind off. Front. Oops, it popped off, put it back on. Through the front. Through the back loop, back stitch. Bring it through, and then bind off. Okay, I'm just going to stop here because I got something else, last thing to show you. Alright, and then once you turn it, then you're going to have this beautiful seam. So let me switch right quick so that I can show you And of course, when you get through binding this one off, you'll just cut the yarn and then come over here and you will work on this side. And you will do the 3 needle bind off in the same manner, starting with the points, and you will bind off. And then, of course, weave in your ends. All right. And so when you open it, see? Now let me get the original. You can see that a lot better. All right, so here we go. Here is the original sweater, because I wanted to show you this one last thing. So now here is my 3 needle bind off seam there. And then here's this side. And then you just weave in the ends. There's the back of the neck. Here's the front. Now, on the black one, you might notice the black one has a collar. I've been wearing this one, so this one's got a few little lint on it because I couldn't help it. I had to put it on. Okay, now this one has a nice collar. I'm going to take this pin off so you can see it. All right. All right, so now on this one, you would simply just work the back completely, just stockinette all the way up to your shoulder. You don't have to do the garter ridge. If you intend to put a collar on here, I mean, you could do the garter ridge, but it doesn't make any sense. It would be a lot easier just to stay in stockinette all the way up to your shoulders and the correct armhole space. Then you would do the 3 needle bind off, just like this one. Then you would have to go back, and I started right here. You'd start somewhere right here, right below or right in this area where you started doing your garter ridge rows. Right in here, you would pick up stitches all along the front edge, across the back, come down and end in the same place on this side. Then you simply knit every row. This is a garter ridge collar where I simply knit every row. You can't hardly see it on the black. Let me see. Can you see that? So that's just fun knitting. If you decide you want a collar, it's not hard. You'd pick up the stitches and just knit every row, and I did it for about 5 inches. Maybe 4.5, about 5 inches maybe. All the way to this other side. It just gives a pretty nice little neck if you like a collar. And let's see if that's on camera. Can you see that? Isn't that pretty? And I didn't do anything but just sit there and knit every row, back and forth, back and forth. Let me share this with you though. If you decide to pick up a collar, from the point you pick up the collar, from here to your shoulder seam, jam as many stitches as possible. Don't stretch them out. Put them close together. And a lot of times what I do is I'll pick up the stitches up to my shoulder and I'll count it and see how many I have. So if I have maybe 14, well, I'll take that out. I'll just pull them out and come back and start again. Right down here where I started the garter ridge, I'd come back and I'd try to increase it. If I had 14, then I'd pull it out and then I'd keep going and try to put them even tighter. Maybe I can squeeze in 19, or maybe I can squeeze in 20, because it makes your collar a lot nicer and it will lay back a lot prettier if you increase the stitch count from here, from the shoulder, from where you start to the shoulder. And then, of course, as you come around the neck, you're going to pick up every stitch that you bound off. Then when you get on this side, then you want to try to do the same thing. However many you were able to squeeze in here, if you were able to get your count up from 14 to 20, then you're going to try to add 20 on this side too, from the shoulder to where you stop. And then continue to just knit around and back and forth until you have this nice collar. Well, okay. What do you think of this? What do you think of our beautiful, beautiful feather and fan sweater? How pretty is that? Of course, it looks good with a scarf. It looks good with a pin. The lace down the front is so pretty. I like the edging. The front edge is really pretty. Now I simply, of course, now you have to, of course, sew up your side seams. And we've gone over your sewing up. You just, like you'd normally sew up, I attach my yarn and a yarn needle, and I work back and forth across the seam, back and forth, back and forth. And you'll do that all the way up to your sleeve. But what I wanted to get to is, and then when I'm all done, I take my sweater to my ironing board, and I turn it to the wrong side, and I just lightly steam, because this is acrylic yarn. So I take it to my ironing board, put it on the ironing board just like you were going to iron a shirt or anything else, and you could put something over it, but I just hold my steam up and just, I call it hand pressing it into shape. I just hand press it, move it along. I'd start at the bottom edge, hold the steam iron, and then I hand press it, hold it over the seam, hand press it, and I go all the way around, and then I lay my sleeves down like this, steam, hand press, steam, hand press, work across over here, steam, hand press. Like I said, it doesn't require much. And then in another upcoming video, just because you've asked, I'm going to show you how I wash and care for my sweaters, because they don't get a lot of wear or anything like that. So but I'm going to show you a little trick that I do. And when I wash them, they come out so pretty. They just come out just like they, like I said, it's just acrylic yarn, but, everything you need to be able to care for it, so that they'll last a long time. So I'll do that in an upcoming video. Well, Bird, what do you think of this sweater? Do you think you think you'll give it a try? Do you think it's pretty? And I love the pin and I love the scarf. So did any of you try the scarf? Our tube scarves. Here's this one. Look at here. Wrap it around. Let me put Bird over here so she can look at it. Bird, what do you think of that? Isn't that pretty? I got this little piece of fabric at Joann's. Well, Bird, what do you think of this pretty sweater? Do you like it? Are you going to give it a try? I hope so. I hope you and all my friends will give this beautiful sweater a try, because I really enjoyed knitting this sweater, and I will probably knit it in some other colors and try some other yarns too. But for now, I feel just really happy to be able to share this not only with you, Bird, but with all our friends. So, this is Jay, wishing you happy Easter and happy knitting, and I hope you enjoy this beautiful feather and fan, birds of a feather sweater just for you. So until next time, this is Jay and Bird saying see ya.